I really want to know why they still make excuses for putting height limits on the city center, because they always say there's such a need for housing, yet they're not addressing like the simplest answers. Build up with what you already have versus just say we're in a crisis and then try to ruin the neighborhoods outside of the city center.
Portland's tallest building height limits are in the downtown core west of the Willamette. The reasons behind them vary from preserving light and air to protecting identified public views like Mount Hood.
The 546-foot Wells Fargo Center is Portland's tallest, but wouldn't rank in the top 10 of Seattle, San Francisco, or Los Angeles.
The hours of interviews we did made it clear that homelessness in Portland is impacting everyone, and you are becoming increasingly divided about how to fix it.
Fox 12 investigative reporter Adrienne Thomas took your concerns about Portland's housing crisis to the people in charge of helping to get folks off the streets.
There is absolutely a housing affordability crisis in Portland, Oregon, which has led to thousands of people living on the streets. But that didn't start yesterday. And those people are not all from somewhere else. A lot of them are Portlanders.
There's just a lot of human suffering going on. And I think people find that distasteful without actually thinking about the things that people need. Oh, there's poop on the ground downtown. Why do you think there's poop on the ground? They need way more public restrooms, very few public trash cans. A lot of the things that people dislike about Portland are the effect of us not really having stuff that a lot of other places are able to have.
I wish people were trying to do more to keep rent prices down. It's unreasonable.
I know that Portland does cater to the homeless a lot, which is great, but I don't think that it should affect anyone else negatively.
Nobody wants to be in an unsafe situation, and if we can do something to change it, then we should.
I do have a sister that is homeless, and so I kind of empathize with that as well. Instead of just creating this narrative about the houseless population and it being a bad thing, and then just pushing them out, we need to implement more job opportunities, housing opportunities, just acknowledging the humanity in those people.
You just heard some of those questions and concerns from different Portlanders, different perspectives, clearly.
I mean, it's interesting, since I've taken on this role, I've had the chance to hear from a lot of Portlanders in different settings. And what you've just shared is very similar to what I hear in kind of day-to-day interactions. People want stable housing for everybody. And they want a city that's livable and that's comfortable.
Brandy Westerman was appointed Emergency Humanitarian Director to oversee homeless initiatives by Mayor Ted Wheeler last fall. She's worked in humanitarian crisis zones all over the world throughout her career. She oversees city outreach teams like this one, who are on the streets on a daily basis, approaching those experiencing homelessness and helping them move into city-funded shelters. Westerman also oversees the 9 shelter sites run by the city of Portland.
You're overseeing all those operations. How's it going so far, and how do you measure success?
Yeah, great question. There's a number of things that we look at when we think about whether the sheltering strategy is successful. First and foremost, are people interested and willing to be there? And the answer is yes. Of the 9 shelters that are currently active within the portfolio of the city, we're operating at capacity any day of the week, right? We currently have about 576 shelter units. Some of those house couples, so the capacity on any given night is a bit higher. The demand continues to far outweigh the supply.
Just this past March, Portland and Multnomah County released a new homeless response action plan to combine and improve city and county strategies for taking on the crisis. The plan states that as of January 2024, Multnomah County reported nearly 5,400 people were experiencing unsheltered homelessness. Total shelter capacity only reaches about 2,700 shelter units countywide, according to a Multnomah County spokesperson. This falls far below demand to shelter everyone in need. While the city and county's plans aim to add an additional 1,000 shelter beds over the next 2 years, Westerman says improving the path to stable housing could get better.
We look a lot at the data in terms of where people go to when they leave the shelters. And we're seeing currently close to half of folks who leave the alternative shelters are leaving to a temporary or permanent housing situation. Now, while half is good to some extent, that means half the people are not. And we know that there's room for improvement there.
We also brought Portlanders' questions to Dan Field, director of the Joint Office of Homeless Services. We met him at a supportive housing community in downtown Portland. Field has been in his role for about a year and feels the city and county governments have improved their relationship in terms of confronting homelessness.
We didn't have a community shelter strategy even just a couple of months ago. That's new within the last 6 months. I'm really proud about that. And so we're making great progress in those relationships.
The Joint Office gets a big financial boost this fiscal year, $205 million in supportive housing services tax dollars coming from a 2020 voter-approved ballot measure.
What kind of impact does that make to the Joint Office's vision, and how do you ensure those dollars are being used effectively?
Yeah, thank you. For years, it was an environment of scarcity. We had to sort of beg, borrow, and steal for city funds, county funds, some state funds, and our total budget was relatively small. In 2020, when the voters approved the supportive housing services measure, it really set us on a new path.
Since the Joint Office doesn't actually provide services, Field says the key to success with this new money will be contracting with dozens of different nonprofits and service providers that operate shelters and supportive housing communities or provide rental assistance to prevent evictions.
Nothing is happening fast enough for any of us. The people you interviewed, me, the Joint Office team, county and city leaders, none of this is happening as fast as we want. But we get up every day and show up in a way committed to doing the work.
The conditions created by all the issues we've discussed have prompted some people to leave Portland.
And many of you have differing views about just how much the population is changing.
Too many people.
Double the population of Los Angeles in the Midwest, and the Midwest has much better infrastructure.
A lot of people are moving out of Portland and moving to some of the suburbs.
The latest census data shows the Portland metro area's population has stayed pretty steady in recent years. We're just not seeing the explosive growth we did in the prior decade.
Multnomah County, however, where Portland's urban center lies, has lost people since 2020, while most surrounding metro counties have grown.
With all the issues we've explored tonight, the one thing no one shied away from talking to us about is the quality of life in Portland and how it impacts them day to day.
I always wish that people were downtown more. The streets often feel a little empty.
I don't like all the graffiti. I don't like the homelessness. They don't like the trash that the homelessness leaves everywhere.
What is our tax dollars going to? It's disgusting. And that's, what we were built on. Downtown was thriving at one point.
I used to work night shift as a nurse. The homeless, I knew who they were. They knew who I was. Super friendly, very respectful. Now the homeless are super aggressive. If you tell them you don't have cash, they get confrontational. You don't feel safe.
I've had friends that had to close restaurants because people would carry machetes in front of them. People would drop their pants and take food off their plates on patios. And these are expensive joints. Nobody's going to spend money if you have to worry about that stuff. You got enough stuff to worry about running a business.
I feel like downtown particularly is dying a little bit, and the other thing is we need better shopping. Maybe that's something that we can hopefully attract to bring back life.
Creating a more family-friendly environment where people that live here and that visit here can travel more comfortably would be a great thing.
I talked to one of our area's most influential business leaders who's doing his part to help.
When I meet with my friends who live in the South or other parts of the world, they say, why are you still there?
When it comes to the city of Portland and its issues, Columbia Sportswear CEO Tim Boyle does not mince words.
I always thought that peace in the Middle East was the most difficult thing to accomplish, but it's actually picking up trash in Portland, Oregon.
Boyle has called Portland home for most of his life, and like many others we've talked to, he's been disappointed to see what's become of the city he loves.
Anybody who's listening in Portland, who visits Portland, has the same reaction.
His concerns go back many years. In 2017, he moved to Sorrel headquarters downtown, but quickly wondered whether he made a mistake when employees reported being harassed and threatened.
I've been vocal about it. We're concerned about the public safety of our employees who live in Portland, who work in Portland, and if you're going to say something about it, you better do something about it.
Boyle did, donating $3 million to help build the Harbor of Hope shelter in Portland. He's also donated funds consistently to clean up trash around the city.
If somebody threw trash on your front lawn, it's not your trash, it's not your job, but it's your front lawn, you clean it up. That's what should happen in the city of Portland.
In December, he committed to a year-long project to the tune of around $400,000.
We have an experiment going on 405. We'll see if the powers to be can make the street in 405 clean.
He's hoping everyone can pitch in, promoting a website called howcanihelpportland.com and pushing for billboards that say Portland is not a trash can.
Portland is not a trash can, but we need elected officials who realize it isn't a trash can.
Ultimately, Boyle did move the Sorrel headquarters back to Washington County in 2022, but the Columbia store is still in the heart of the city.
Our downtown Portland store was always a tourist destination. And since there are fewer tourists in Portland now, it's been a challenge. And frankly, there are voices here who would like us to close it. I'm not ready to throw in the towel yet.
I asked him if he thinks things will get better, and it turns out he's resting a lot of his hope on the upcoming local elections for both district attorney and city and county leaders.
Hopefully we have people there who are not taking the job because they want to tell people they live in the greatest and that they're a leader in the greatest city in the world, but they're leaders who say, this is tough, I'm a tough person, I'm going to make it happen, and I'm committed to being a leader that can make the city back to what it once was. I don't want to give up. This is too great a place.
As we said right when we started, this is just the beginning of Be Seen, Be Heard Portland. You'll see much more on this effort in Fox 12 newscasts going forward. Thank you for joining us. Now we want all of you to take part.
You can go to BeSeenBeHeardPortland.com or the Fox 12 app anytime to share your own comments and questions, join the conversation, and be seen, be heard.
Interaction has to increase, and we have to be comfortable talking to one another about these issues.
Hopefully the right people see it, get us back to where we were before it went crazy out here.
If your goal is to change Portland and make it better, I believe this is a good way to start.
I still am coming downtown because I love Portland and I'm not giving up on her.
Good for you guys to highlight different perspectives.